This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Epi number 201. Hello,
Oh,
Tim.
yes. Hi, 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 hi.
Hello,
All
hello.
right. Well, things are kind of moving along here. Some obstruction today, which is a pain in the ass, but
Oh, Jack,
we don't
please.
have to, we don't have to go there. But
I'll talk about that later with you.
wait,
But
wait, yeah,
anyway,
yeah, we don't have to go. I had a great weekend. I had two shows, and they were both a fucking blast. And it's always, I don't know, rewarding to realize
well,
your
and
designs.
I do love the shows you do with Azumi, the Buto dancer. That looked absolutely
That
fantastic. I
was that
I
was
couldn't make
magic.
it sadly, but I did see some of the video and it looked absolutely fantastic. And we will have her on here
At some
very
point,
soon.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, she's really incredible to work with, and I just I just like I like it when you can just imagine something and then you have people around you to help realize it. And
I und- I feel the
I,
exact same way. Thank you.
yes, yes, I've been
Well, exactly. Perfect. Now we fly all the time and we will be flying again very soon.
correct.
But there is an attraction in Sydney, Australia that lets visitors experience a plane crash.
What?
Now,
Oh,
I would go to that because I love turbulence. I'm never afraid on a plane.
right.
And it's using a combination of sensory deprivation and binaural audio sound flight. It's called sends its guests through the harrowing experience of a plane crash, all while they sit safely and motionless inside a large stationary shipping container. The lack of motion means that this flight simulator is safe for anyone to ride, at least physically. We can't promise, the exhibit goes, that it won't seriously mess with your head. Now, as disturbing as this concept is, boundary pushing installations like this are par for the course at Sydney's Powerhouse Museum, where a focus on art, science, innovation, design. They're not afraid to display pieces and attraction that take us to the next level. And Darkfield is the creative collective behind Flight, and it specializes in intense experiential exhibits that suspend interacting guests in unreal or hyperreal situation with the use of 360-degree audio.
Well, yeah.
Very
Well,
interesting.
it's I think for sensation. I mean, as a lot of people, film historians say, well, the actual visual element of film hasn't really evolved that much in terms of angles and stuff. But sound was the evolutionary step, and it just kind of all encompassing. Now, is this for entertainment,
Oh,
or
yeah,
is
it's
it, or
for
is this
fun.
also
Well,
it's
it's
not?
at a museum.
But okay, right, right, right. But I thought maybe it could be used for some kind of therapy. Like some people are
Yeah, well,
terrified
it could
of
probably make
flying.
people more frightened. But back to what you were saying about audio. I mean, where that is really specific in this day and age, because horror is at the forefront of so much cinema, is it can really make or break a horror film. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah.
can really take it to the next step. And the silence can be as terrifying as, any kind of bombast.
What's the I forget what it's called, but it's there's one at the Holocaust Museum in LA. There's only a few of them. I think it's called like wave field
Ah,
amplification or something, where it's something like 52 speakers, and it's super three-dimensional. So say for instance you're listening to a recording of a jazz band, and if you want to get a little louder to the drums, you walk over where the
right.
drums are. It really sounds like you're in a live setting. The question is, they remember they used to have quadraphonic in the 70s and all that stuff. It always comes back to, well, we have two ears.
Well, okay. I worked with the sound archaeologist, Jakob Kierkegaard,
Okay.
who, went and taped. Actually, he went to the singing sands of Oman with J.G. Thirlwell at one point, but he
Okay.
also went to Chernobyl and various other places.
Sure.
And I did a project with him because he would record the sounds we can't hear and then send them out again, reproducing them. But he did one project where, depending on where you stood exactly, by the hairs in your ears
Yeah.
and the sound that would go in, you would have a totally different experience. Which, now, I myself really love that room, and I think this is also in Los Angeles. That is the quietest room ever made, and
Oh,
it
right, right,
totally
right.
freaks people out. I'm
Oh,
like,
they can't.
oh, put
How
me in
long can they?
there.
How long can they
Oh,
stand it? Like a
most
minute?
yeah, they can't stand it. I'm like, put me in it. Right now, how do you quiet the fucking voices in your own head or your tinnitus?
I mean, this is very common for pets, particularly cats. If there's a power outage, all the ambient electrical sound of your house, which we just kind of block out, it stops, and it terrifies them, and they'll often defecate on the floor, do something really insane. They're like,
Well, and I guess, I mean, I thought I was kind of cat-like, but maybe I'm more shark-like because
oh yes,
I hear so much electrical sound, and that also can just drive me nuts sometimes.
well, I mean,
Like, do you hear that? No, I don't. Well, I do.
I mean, there's 2 shark attacks that happened over the last
None of them were mine.
couple days. There's a great video footage. This guy was fishing in a kayak
Idiot. Yep.
a mile offshore in Hawaii.
What a freak.
Just reeled up a fish, and then next thing you know, a tiger shark just slams him so fucking hard. Fortunately, the thing just like took a bite of the kayak and realized there's nothing bloody and just swam off. But he's like, oh my God, there's a tiger shark that just attacked me. And it's pretty insane footage. That thing was hauling ass. And then the other one was a 13-year-old girl in Florida.
Yeah.
She was in waist deep water. And one of the most aggressive, maybe the most aggressive shark, the bull shark, just kind of clamped onto her guts or something. But she beat that fucking thing off.
Wad him up, punch him in the nose.
I mean, bull sharks don't give up very easily, so she was tough.
You might witness me punching the shark in the nose soon. I'll tell you more about that later. But in the meantime,
okay,
we're going from large and brutal to small and harmless, yet still terrifying. So the scientist scraped a black dot off his forehead and filmed it under a microscope, revealing, what do you think? Dozens of crawling face mites. Oh my God. And they're as terrifying as tardigrades. That's what they look like. So he scraped this black dot off. So dozens of tiny face mites, they're called dermadex mites, crawling around. Now they're harmless and they like to live on human faces as well as other animals. They come out at night and have sex on your face, and they lay eggs in your glands. Now, that sounds, of course, horrifying, especially since I never like to wash my face, but it wouldn't matter because they're deep inside the follicles of the hair, but they live on every mammal, and they're so small that we can't. I mean, it would take several of them to cover the head of a pin. Okay, and they live their entire lives on our bodies or faces, and eventually die and decompose. All right. So anyway,
so what's going on with this guy? If you can't see these fucking things, why does he have a big?
Well, James Weiss, he's a videographer for the YouTube channel Journey to the Microcosmos, the author of The Hidden Beauty of the Microscopic World. So it was just another one of his little experiments. Now, the German dermatologist Gustav Simon first discovered these little creatures in 1842. We must have had a really powerful microscope. But I mean, 200 years later, we're still not sure why they exist, especially on our faces, but not just us and everything else.
Like munch?
They munch and have sex, and then they, defecate on your face, and they like to do it at night. They're mostly found on faces in your hair follicles, and hence that goes back to my complaints about people that don't shave. So, I have read a study.
Bears have a lot more of these fucking things?
Oh, yeah, they do. And they have usually more of these things than dogs. Hello, shave your fucking face and wash your ass.
Okay.
Anyway, the good thing is, so-called, that the Demodex mite is our friend. He's just chewing up dead skin and getting rid of it, and also getting rid of the excess oil we don't need. But of course, too many of them can contribute to chronic skin problems. And, it's more common in people with weakened immune systems, but you can't get rid of them, and you shouldn't want to. You can't scrub them out. And there is a harmony in the skin, quote unquote, good types of bacteria and microorganisms. And if you disturb that harmony, you can sometimes create other problems. So I wouldn't advocate getting rid of something unless it's causing other issues.
so going back to sharks, it's like those sucker sharks that are the parasites that stick to the bottom of the shark. That's their version of that.
Exactly.
Oh,
well, we're just part of, the human, and then we're just part of the life cycle. I mean, I always say we're merely a carrier for the bacteria, the viruses, etc., that need a place to live, and here they go. They're right on us. So.
Well, so technically, according to scientists, all pets are technically parasites, and they just charmed us somehow.
Hey, most of my ex-lovers were
Yeah,
parasites.
there we go. So technically, a dog and a cat are kind of a
Although
parasite.
they didn't live on my face, I sat on their face and had sex. I'm just saying. God, where are we going with this?
Well, this is where I'm going. So, speaking of pets, a man was driving. He was speeding. This is in Colorado. He was going 55 and a 30. Cops pulled him over just for a routine kind of speeding traffic violation.
Yep.
But then they realized maybe they have to investigate a little bit more because the guy had conspicuously switched seats with his dog and put the dog in the driving seat.
Oh, please.
And they're like, what's going on? Is this a joke? And then they realized how wasted he was. He was completely drunk. And they thought it was funny, but like, he's drunk. Okay, step out of the car. And then he tried to run. He got about 10 feet and fell down. They cuffed him. And that was that. But, the dog did not get a ticket for speeding. They didn't believe that the dog was driving. So the dog's fine if anyone wants to know.
I'm still waiting for the bees that they said could sniff out COVID, and I'm sure they can. I mean, they're smarter than we know. Unfortunately, they're, unlike humans, becoming extinct. Now, Tim, imagine, and I know this is not usually your style, but if a ripped leather jacket, bag, or shoe could repair itself, and this could one day be a reality if the jacket is fashioned from what is one of my favorite living or non-elements, fungus. So researchers reported
another mushroom story. Cool.
I can't help it. Researchers reported that in advanced functional materials that they made a self-healing leather from mushroom thread-like structures from the mycelium, and that it's already an emerging product, but it's produced in a way that extinguishes fungal growth. So it was Elise Elsacker and colleagues speculated that if the production conditions were tweaked, the mycelium could retain its ability to regrow if damaged, which I think is really unbelievable. And Elsacker is a bioengineer at the university in Brussels. And so they grew the mycelium in a soup rich in proteins, carbohydrates, and other nutrients. And when a skin formed on the surface of the liquid, they scooped it off, cleaned it, and dried it to make a thin, somewhat fragile leather material. But they used temperatures and chemicals mild enough to form the leather. It sounds incredible. So after punching holes in the leather, the researchers doused the area in the same broth used to grow it to revive its spores, and it eventually regrew over the punctures. I just think this is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's like the salamander of the fungus world.
Wow. Well, that's some good news. Let's see what else here. Well, do you know who Billy McFarland is?
Which one? No.
Billy McFarland's the guy that did that Fire Fest years ago. That was a big scam about
oh yeah, I know.
Offering this luxury, hanging out with celebrities, food in the Caribbean island, and the whole thing was a disaster.
Total ripoff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he served his 4 years in jail. He's out now, and he claims he's going to do Fire Fest 2.
Well,
I mean, who would buy this thing?
Hide the money. What can I say? Well,
he says he's not going to handle any of the logistics this time. He's just going to be the ideas guy, and but he owes people. He owes people $26 million.
Oh God, what fucking balls that guy has!
So he's not going to do that.
He's going to be lucky if he just doesn't get Well, how about the story? Did you read the story about the woman that had some kneecap cartilage removed and then put it in her bolaise sauce and they ate it?
I did not.
I'm just thinking he might be kneecapped and somebody's going to fucking eat it.
Why did that happen? Why did
you felt like it? I don't know.
Bonkers, or I like to say,
bonks. People will stick anything in their mouth now and then. Anyway, with little more to be said, at this point, this is and will, for as long as possible, be the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 201.
Hooray.
This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Mike Doskocil, which we've already established sounds like an antibacterial vaginal swab. And speaking with the man of drunks with guns. I thought I better be well lubricated for this engagement. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Lydia.
I was very enthused when I was checking some of your stuff out today, and right under your song "Drug Problem" came up "No Trend," one of my also most favorite hated bands ever.
Oh, ever. That record was a
Oh,
huge game winner.
every few months I say, too many fucking humans, you breed like rats and you're no fucking better, or quick, 2 seconds till non existent. So, what the fuck do you want? I might also
Yeah.
be quoting your drug problem record if I had that many drugs for people to steal, but don't.
Well, yeah, that was so old that back then drugs for me meant, sniffing glue and hallucinogenics and beer. So when I actually got a drug problem, I realized just how inappropriate that was. Because,
What kind of drug was the problem? You didn't have enough drugs. You have a drug problem when you can't get as many drugs as you need, I guess.
well, you know what it was I knew dopers, but to me it was like, doing pornography. Nothing against it, but nobody is ever going to want to see me fuck. That's another long story. But and then I got shot in a carjacking, and I didn't have any health insurance, and I was in the hospital, and it was a 38, and it went in just south of my knee, between my tibia and my fibula.
So painful.
Did you get this thing called compartment syndrome? It tears up all the different fascia groups.
Oh boy!
So they have to kind of open it up on both sides and let it air out. But they were giving me a shot every 4 hours, and I couldn't even get up to use the bathroom. So, which is also when I learned how to cath myself. It's very difficult to urinate when you're lying down and you're not completely drunk. And I couldn't do it. My body, my brain is like, I really need to pee, but my body is like, there's no way I'm laying in a bed full of my own urine.
Hello, you're no Dolly Parton, who said she used to piss the bed to keep warm. Was this carjacking in St. Louis?
Well, here's the thing: when you're the victim of a crime in Missouri,
so you weren't doing the carjacking; you were being carjacked.
Oh yeah, no, I never. I've always been proud of the fact that I don't need a gun.
All right, nice. But you just happened to carjacking when you're in the car. I mean, were you at a stoplight? Were you like just sitting and parked? What happened?
I was driving around town on a Sunday night. It was close to midnight, and I was cutting through Forest Park again. The second largest urban park in the country. I think Philadelphia holds that honor with what is it, Constitution Park or whatever that flag pride park
is. St. Louis. Lydia was asking. It's St. Louis.
Yeah. Forest Park in St. Louis, and there was a stop sign, and it was really hot out, and I had the windows down, and I rolled to a stop, and just that quick, a gun appeared in the passenger side window.
Oh boy!
And, get out of the car, leave your wallet on the seat. And I was smart enough to know if I would have got out of that car, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I dropped the clutch and punched the gas. And when the truck lurched forward, the round, instead of going off of my head, went off of my leg.
Terrible. Sorry to hear that.
To this day, when I smell cordite, my heart rate just shoots through the roof.
And what happened to the gunman? Did he?
What do you think?
Come on.
I love it. The police came into my room and they were like, "Well, what do you look like?" I'm like, "You're joking, right?"
Right. It's hello.
It took 2.5 seconds, start to finish. I didn't know I was shot until I tried to go from third to fourth gear. So it was a good 40 seconds before I realized, my boot was filling up with something warm and sticky.
Now you got a white pussy on your lap. What's its name?
Oh, this is Corky.
Corky.
Corky Peabody, attorney at law.
I hear you're a cat lover.
I am an animal. I'm an all animal lover. I
love
quit
cats
a long time ago.
Yeah, they're better than most people, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, they don't cry when they sit on your lap.
Well,
usually, unless they want more.
I was actually I had been a intermediate EMT, which is the next step before paramedic, working for a private ambulance company in Chicago the year before I was shot. So I was kind of better at it than most people because I've dealt with a few gunshot wounds, you know, as the caretaker as opposed to being the target. So
did anyone ever die in front of you on the EMT gig?
Oh yeah, that happened. Yeah. You know, we used to do the 911 overflow at Cabrini Green.
Wow.
Well, there you go. That's
Holy-
the show Good Times, that opening montage.
Oh yeah.
That's the old Cabrini Green before they shut down.
I used to because my dad had this place in Bucktown in '78, and it would be really hot, and we would take my brother and I, to the lake, and on a hot summer day, and we had to drive through Cabrini Green, and oh boy, do I remember that the outdoor hallway with the cage, you know, like the motels with the outdoor hallway with the cage, like 20 stories, hundreds of poor kids, like a fucking zoo, clung to the thing. Building after building after building. I mean,
yeah, excuse me, Tim. I'm going to correct you. Not like a zoo, like a fucking prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I'm going to go back to what you're saying. Yeah, Cabrini Green had some of the highest, not per cap, like per square footage violent crime stats in the whole country.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you put people in a place that looks like a prison, they might start acting like criminals.
Well, this was most of 1991, and you know, like one thing is they had elevators, but the elevator ceilings were, because they spent so much time hiding guns up there, they took the ceiling tiles out and put in chicken wire. Well, anytime anybody with the uniform would show up to use the elevators, they'd throw down these 40-ounce bottles full of urine and feces to kind of rain. So we'd get there on, like, you know, a passive gunshot call. It wasn't a crime. Like, one of the first rides I did was kid found dad's gun. Really. And if you just had mandatory trigger locks, you could cut gun crimes down to a third. Just mandatory trigger locks. That easy. Anyway, we couldn't use the elevator, and we would have to haul our gear up 5 flights of stairs. And, you know, by the time we got there,
you're exhausted.
Fucking, you know, call the ME. You're wasting our time. It was just pitiful how much, you know, and that's when I realized, wow.
What made you want to go? What made you go into that line of work?
Oh, well, you know, I started out in Indian Guides. Matter of fact, one of the bass players from Drunks with Guns, we met in Indian Guides, that was the precursor to Webelos and Cub Scouts, and then you had Boy Scouts. So yeah, I was a scout. I came up through scouting and, you know, learned how to read a map. You know, learned which end of the knife is the pointy end. Learned how to start fires. That's a good one. Yeah, got to learn your fire. Got to learn your fire safety.
Could you start a fire with basically nothing if you're stuck in the woods?
You know, true story. I was once arrested for arson in Chicago.
In
Chicago,
choking on the fumes. Oh my God!
Stupid drunk. You know, stolen car, crashed in the building. I thought, hey, wouldn't that be cool if it was burning? So, you know, of course, I set it on fire and was caught immediately. But there was only one witness, and it was my neighbor. And I went and had a chat with her, and I brought her lunch. And for some reason, she didn't show up to the preliminary hearing, and they dropped the charges. And then, because it was Illinois, I got my record expunged, and they sent me everything. They sent me my mug shots. They sent me my fingerprint card. I'm like, this is going to make the coolest fucking record company. And then I realized, well, maybe arson isn't the thing to brag about.
All right. Well, so we're talking on a lot of stuff besides much of your music, unless you want to talk about stuff besides your music.
Weasel said you're an amazing drummer.
Oh yeah, I'm the shit. You know, I went out to Las Vegas in 2000 and played in a casino band for a year just because, you know, I was like, hey, let's check it out. And I got a gig out there like right away playing in an Irish drinking band, lots of two-step polka beats and, you know, the 1 2 3 1 2 3 thing. But
so when did you start on the drums?
Well, I guess it was probably 4th grade. Well, there was my father's father had a brother, my uncle Lou Doskocil, who used to play all the bohunk weddings and funerals in South St. Louis back in the 1920s and 30s. With his partner was a guy named Mel Bay. So, you know, Uncle Mel was my Uncle Mel.
So Mel Bay, the book, the education book, Mel Bay. Wow. Okay.
He had a my uncle Lou played the squeeze box and Mel played the guitar. And actually they had a band that they would play the weddings and funerals, and then when they would have jam sessions for all the bohunks, which you know what a bohunk is, right? Anybody that's not a German or a Jew.
Yeah.
Eastern European, you know, just enough Roma, just enough Catholic. Anyway, but they had a band called oh shit, I got the photo too. The Moonlight Maidens. And I have an old picture of Mel when he was like 18 with my uncle Lou Doskocil. And they just had a bass drum and they had drawn a logo on it, the Moonlight Maidens. So really, you know, if there was a start to music, Mel was like, I used to go into his shop all the time because I had an older brother that took guitar lessons there. And finally he was like, you look like a drummer. Here, take these sticks home. And, you know, hey, what else was I going to do? I thought about burning them, but there just wasn't enough wood.
Well, so, you got to beat something sometime just to get it all out of you.
Yeah, Uncle Mel was, he used to, he was the best at Christmas. He would give us like punching bags and jarts, you know, all the dangerous toys.
Yeah, well, that's
nails.
I always say that to, you know, if I have like a nephew or something, if it's a boy particularly, always give them a gift that's too old for them. Like, and they'll love you forever.
Like dynamite.
Love you forever. Yep, exactly. So not to talk about Uncle Mel, but did he sell his little series? Did he own the rights to all these books? I mean, did he make a fortune?
He made his nut in publishing. Yes. Doing all the Big Note songbooks that he did.
Yep.
And then my Uncle Lou also, I took piano lessons from him for a while. So, you know, I wanted to find a way to, you know.
I see how your piano lessons really came in handy when you were going to start Drunks with Guns. Not.
Well, you know, on the first 7-inch, I dubbed a piano to the songs, but it didn't record right. And, you know, that band, the first 3 7-inches we did, the first 3 EPs, all 3 got erased before we could remix them.
God.
So we literally repressed all 3 of those vinyls off of cassette rough mixes. We were the band that never got, you know, the second studio we went to, we tried calling them back to go back and remix, and they kept saying, oh yeah, we're really busy and we'll call you back. And you know, this was went on for like 6 weeks, and finally we called them and we were like, hey, you know, we're the fucking Happy Pumpers and we want to come record our, and they're like, oh yeah, we're open this weekend. And we're like, hey, gotcha, motherfucker. We're the Drunks with Guns. And why won't you let us come back and remix our shit? And they're like, look, I'm going to break it down for you. You guys fucking suck. You're not, those aren't even real songs. You can't fucking sing. And here's some really good advice. Just quit now. You guys stink. And I was thinking, oh, now I really want to press this shit. How dare you?
Well, you know, exactly. Negative attention. I understand it. I've thrived on it myself. I understand. Oh, yeah. Understand. When did you affiliate with Amphetamine Reptile? Speaking of nuts with guns.
Well, you know, the whole thing, it just because we wanted to be a punk rock band at first. You know, we were in 1984. You know, everybody wanted to be Black Flag. Everybody wanted to be the Germs and the Circle Jerks, but we just couldn't play that fast. You know, it was a band of all drummers, and somebody had to play guitar and sing, and I can't fucking do either one of those 2 things. So, you know, we just came upon this idea: if we slowed everything down, you know, maybe we could play our own songs. But yeah, so things were going great, and we did the first record and the second record, and then went to do the third record, and you know, things just fell apart. And then lo and behold, I find out that one of the now ex-band members had gone behind all of our backs and filed the copyright for all the fucking songs, the lyrics and everything. And you know, keep in mind, this guy is like 10 years older than the rest of us. He's never even written a birthday card in his life. I don't need somebody writing my words for me.
And nobody knew about copyrights or even publishing.
No, nobody. And then
nobody.
I tried cutting deals with labels, and everybody, he was getting a lawyer to send out these cease and desist letters. And at that point, I was like, fuck it. And I moved to Phoenix and joined a goth metal death band. Some people from the
singing or
Survival
drumming
Research Lab.
Oh, wait, singing or drumming?
Drumming, yeah.
Survival Research, totally unheralded, more popular, in San Francisco and Europe. I love those guys. Total destructo, robotics, machines that kill. And if anybody has ever, and if you haven't been, at least go and watch some YouTube videos. One of the loudest things and most destructively beautiful things I've ever seen are performances by Survival Research Laboratory, Mark Pauline, etc.
Yeah, our bass player had played with them, and then also with the Mighty Sphincter. And at the time in 1989, Phoenix was popping. You had Mighty Sphincter, and there was just a bunch of great bands out there. And I went to it's funny. I got out there and I got a job at Zia Records, like right off the bat. And I went to a party. I'm the manager at Zia Records, the guy who's breaking me in. His name's Robin. He's like, I heard you play the drums. I'm like, yeah. He's like, we need a drummer right now. I'm in a band and we need a drummer. And I go over there and, they're kind of doing like a cheap trick kind of thing, but Robin can really sing. And they got a great fucking songwriter in the band too. And I'm thinking, yeah, we should fucking do this again. And then that weekend I went and saw Boot Beast Carnival, and I'm just like, and everybody, all the people I started meeting out there, they're all like, oh man, you don't want to get involved with those guys. Those motherfuckers will steal your gear, fuck your wife, give her herpes, and fucking wreck your car.
And then blame you for it.
Right. And so of course I'm like, I gotta be in this band. And things started popping really quick, I mean, I sent a demo tape we did on a jam box to a Flipside, and they did a big giant 3-page spread on us. And we started getting all these calls from labels and shit. And of course, the other band I turned down, 6 months later, I turned on MTV, and they're all over the place. What was the name of that band?
Meat Puppets?
No, the other band from out there that was on MTV. Yeah, na, till I hear it from you. Hear it from
no
you.
idea.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah, some fucking, I can't remember.
Well,
Gin Blossoms.
Oh God.
Gin
God.
I turned down the Gin Blossoms to join.
Good move.
Band with a bunch of junkies from Survival Research, and I thought it was a good choice. I definitely thought it was the right choice. But again, it was just, we fucking people couldn't put the dope down, and it all ended tragically, and everything just And that's when I went to Chicago and was like, fuck this shit. And I was working in Chicago for Burr's Ambulance for like 9 months. And I always write letters to people. I was big on letters since I was in grade school. And I wrote this kind of heavy metal glam band called Uncle Sam that was from Rochester, New York. And
my hometown. Yeah.
They were the shit. That first album they did, Heaven or Hollywood, and then they did their next album was Letters from London. 2 incredible records. I wrote them a letter. I'm like, man, you guys are fucking awesome. If you ever need a drummer. And they second dared me a letter the next day. When can you get here? And I called them up. I'm like, you're 13 hours away. I'll be there in 12. And
where were they? Where were they at?
Rochester.
Rochester.
Oh, they were. So you went to Rochester.
So I went to Rochester and spent a couple weeks playing with them, and they too were kind of winding down. Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses was a really big fan, and they were going to be like, what if Guns N' Roses wasn't pretty? They were ugly. They were angry. They were everything I love in a rock and roll band.
Mm-hmm.
They were much more Iggy than that fucking hair metal Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Not that I have friends involved with that band. I don't want to talk too much shit on them, but it's just, it's not my thing.
I'll talk about it. They suck. It doesn't matter. So did you hang out at the House of Guitars?
Oh, of course. I still got my shirt from that place.
Hey,
I love that. I love Rochester. I think it's an unsung gem.
We all, growing up there in the early 70s, everybody came there. I mean, I saw every concert backstage, etc. But House of Guitars, I'd beg them to be on the commercials and they would just go, I still go in there and they still laugh and they're like, you used to stand in the doorway. I'm like, and I'm back again. Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah. You know, in that respect, musical instruments are kind of like drugs. You always got to deal with some real shitty people to get the best. You know, that's just the way it is.
And you keep on spending money on them.
You know, I had an older brother that took me to rock concerts back in the 70s. The first band I ever saw was Argent. But there used to be this band that was really big in St. Louis called Angel. I don't know if you remember them or not.
Oh, yeah. Right. Angel, it's real glam looking. They were white, all white, right?
They're with Casablanca's flip side.
Yes. Yeah.
But I saw Angel in 77 and they had this opening band called The Gods. Now, this fucking changed my life. This is when I went overnight from Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath to, like, you know, Jacques Brel and Tom Jones. There's this opening band and they're called The Gods and the lights go out, you know, and fucking singer comes out. Nothing but black leather pants. Hello, St. Louis. You got some great cocaine. I was 12 years old. I didn't even know what cocaine looked like. And I was like, this is the greatest fucking rock band in the world. And they played like fucking biker trash. And they ended their set with making all this noise. And then the singer and the guitarist leaned back and touched tongues. Oh, that was it for St. Louis. Fuck you, fags. All these bottles rain down on them. And I'm like, this is the greatest rock and roll experience of my life. So fast forward, Las Vegas, 30 years later, I go to this guitar shop right around the corner from my apartment, Cowtown Music. And I go in there for like 2 years straight. I'm going in there, I'm shooting the shit. I go in there one day and the owner, he's got a muscle shirt on and he's got a God sticker. God's tattoo, on his arm. And I'm like, oh man, that's a great fucking tattoo. That band changed my life. And he's like, yeah, I'm Mark Chetfield. I'm the guitarist for the Gods. And I'm like, oh my God, wait right here. I run home. I get all my Gods bootlegs and a Sharpie. But yeah, he was the one who, and then of course, when I found out how much he changed my life, I'd go there like every day and sit at his knee. You know, tell me another story about how Rod Stewart, you know, blew your girlfriend. But he was the one who said, because I was in there one day rapping with him, and I'm like, you know, I really want to go back to a place like Phoenix, or, you know, with 50,000 college students and live original music 7 nights a week. And he was the one who mentioned Columbus. And I came here for a weekend, and that was 20 years ago. Because, you know, up until that point, I've been moving all over the country since, you know, my parents gave me the boot after high school, which, you know, not to blame them, I'd have kicked my ass out too.
Yeah, there you go.
I was out of control.
So, and is Columbus the longest location you've lived for the longest duration?
Ever. Because I left St. Louis at 18 and I went back for my drug problem because I didn't know where else to go. Plus, you know, it's my home. You know, if I was going to tramp around, you know, black urban environments with pimps, gangbangers, and you know, getting shot and getting high, you know, that's the place I want to do it. You know, I feel safe there because what am I going to get shot twice in the same city?
Well,
no,
St. Louis is
not going to happen.
St. Louis is in the top 50 most dangerous cities on the planet that are not officially in a war. I mean,
here's how the federal government fucks you on that statistic. They first and foremost separate by state. So when you look at a place like St. Louis, they're just counting St. Louis City proper. But if you count the whole metropolitan area, which crosses 2 states, it's East St. Louis in Illinois and St. Louis in Missouri. You look at that whole area, and you're talking about a population of people and a murder rate, then in another 72 years, there aren't going to be any people living there. I mean, it's that bad.
It's that bad. And St. Louis, like Baltimore, they took a bad contract, like in the heart of the Industrial Revolution, before white flight suburbs even existed as infrastructure, because those things are just farms out there. They're like, fuck you, we're going to secede from the county. The problem is now, if you're in the suburbs, your tax money, what you earn in that city, doesn't go back towards the infrastructure. So it's like rotting. So then people are like, yeah, you guys can't keep it together, fuck off. But it's like, no, it's a bad contract from a long time ago that can't fucking support the infrastructure that everyone's fucking milking off of. It's a disaster. In other words.
Yeah. And you know, you got to remember too that back during the Civil War, Missouri didn't even claim a side because
Right, they're
they
neutral.
were already
Exactly.
having a
like
civil
Kentucky,
war for
right?
the last 40 years.
Kentucky too, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
and to this day, what do you call, you look it up in Wikipedia, what's a jayhawk? A jayhawk is, somebody who's fighting against slavery, also known as a criminal. I mean, to this day, they call people against slavery thugs, hoods, and crooks. It's incredibly segregated, and to get around that, they put all the powers in Jefferson City, which it's in the middle of nowhere. It was a 3-day horse ride to Kansas City or St. Louis. So if you had a race crime back in the 19th century, you're talking about a good 3 days before the people that oversee the police show up to find out what happened. By that time, mysterious witnesses go on 4-week vacations. The body can't be found. But you look up like the incident on Bloody Island. I mean, there were pieces of those people. They lynched some. It was terrible. And there were pieces of those people in front store windows to warn the folks who weren't white enough just how serious of a town it was. So but then again, there's certain things in St. Louis that you just never see anywhere else. Like you've seen the Arch, right? This giant 606 foot solid fucking, well, not solid, you can go up in it, but it's aluminum, and they buff it but they have this thing called the Veiled Prophet Fair every 4th of July. Look that up. Veiled Prophet. That is some white supremacy Catholic bullshit right there. But there was this guy, because every year at Veiled Prophet, somebody would try to swim the Mississippi. You can't swim the Mississippi.
No.
And the people who try, they only find the bodies like half the time. But this guy jumped out of an airplane at the Veiled Prophet. I think I was down there for it too. We were laughing our ass off. This was the Veiled Prophet of '85. I'm almost sure of it. Guy jumps out of an airplane with one of those the umbrellas that you can steer, and he's gonna land on the arch, and his wife is videotaping it down below. Well, he fucks up and he doesn't land on top. He kind of lands off to the side, then he slides all the way down the arch, bloop, right on the concrete. And forget the 3rd-degree burns he suffered sliding down the hot aluminum. He was a pancake when he hit the concrete. You can edit this out, by the way, but that's just the kind of dumb shit that only in St. Louis. Yeah.
All right. So speaking
on the arch,
speaking only in St. Louis, and this does include the whole metropolitan area, including East St. Louis. Who's your favorite musician from the St. Louis area of all time? And there's a pretty good list. Do you have one?
There is. You see, here's the thing. I got really good at drums really quick. When I was in 6th, 7th grade, I was playing with grown men. Of course, the flip side to that,
so was
when I got to be a grown man, I didn't get a whole. I got really good really fast, but then I hit my glass ceiling, which every artist does. You might be the next Keith Moon, but you're not going to be the next Max Roach. So that being said, I'm big on Ike Turner, but there's a lot of people you're never going to hear about. There's a lot of clubs that not only do they don't exist, nobody took pictures. It's just lost to memory, lost to time.
Right.
But I got to tell you, I really regret not spending more time playing with Mel and my Uncle Lou when I was a kid, because I was like, oh no, I'm gonna drum for Alice Cooper. I don't want to play these goofy bohunk songs. And now, I hear,
Alice Cooper could use some
jar, and I can't.
Alice Cooper could use some good musicians right about now.
Yes. I mean, it's funny that you went to Vegas. I mean, people kind of like make fun of the working musician, but Vegas or Orlando, if you got the skills, you can still work as a musician in those places. I mean, some people don't want to do those types of gigs, but there's actual real work for musicians.
I shared a house with 2 other people in the business. One was a Ferengi at the Star Trek Experience.
God.
And it was the most amount of money the year that I worked in the casinos, because there's no state income tax. But we had an in-ground pool. We had a pool boy. We had a maid that came 3 days a week. I mean, it was high on the hog living. And not only that, but they would give you per diems at the bar,
yeah.
plus all those T-bones and lobster tails at the
buffet.
Thing, the cafeteria that ends up in the employee lounge. So the whole year I played in casinos. I think I might have gone to the grocery store twice.
Nice.
And I had gone from New Orleans to Las Vegas. So, that's my kind of town where you can get your dry cleaning at 3:30 in the morning. I loved it.
And so why did you leave?
Well, you know what it was is because I got out there literally the first ad I answered. I'm on the phone. Oh, you need an Irish drummer, huh? And I'm talking on the phone with this guy, and I'm like, oh, by the way, wait a minute. What street did you say you live on? Go out on your front porch. I walk out because I just moved to Vegas. I'd never been there in my life. I looked 2 doors down. There's this guy talking on the phone on the porch. I'm like, look to your right. So it was one of those, if God didn't put me in that band, the God of music, by the way, not that other asshole. If the God of music didn't mean for that to happen. And then, all the songs, they were all about, killing the British and getting drunk. I loved it. If you have to pick a subculture of white people to only do that kind of music, Irish is right up there with punk rock. I loved it.
And who's your favorite Irish writer, if you have one?
Oh, you know what? My whole thing, my all-time hero ever is Alex Harvey. And I first saw Alex Harvey on Don Kirshner's rock concert.
Me too.
When I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are going to Scotland this September because I just have to see everything I can about Alex Harvey. I got to meet people that met him. I got to see where the streets.
Faith Healer, one of the best songs ever.
All of it, because I was such a little book nerd as a kid. I was born blind in one eye, so my eyesight's really fucked up. I can't catch a ball. I can't, put the thing in the hoop. I can't do any of that shit. But what I can do is read,
Mike, I had this kind of a psychic dream last night about being blind in one eye, and they had to take it out, and I had to have a patch because I had a hole, and they were going to put it back in once they repair it. That's so weird. It's major deja vu right there when you mentioned that. Okay, so then, all right. So after Vegas, then you go. I'm hearing all the stories. I'm trying to get the chronological order here. Vegas. What was directly after Vegas?
Oh well, the chronological order would be St. Louis, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Phoenix, Chicago, Rochester, Tacoma, St. Louis, Tacoma, New Orleans, Las Vegas, Ohio.
Why Tacoma?
Because I got transferred by Tower Records. That's why. I was like, this sucks. I got to live somewhere else. Who's got an opening? Because you got to remember, it was minimum wage. It was $5.25 an hour, but you got health insurance and you could transfer at the drop of a hat. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you move on Amtrak, they let you bring a skid with 1,100 pounds.
Wow.
That's a fucking drum set on all my records. Come on. They even got a pallet turntable where you can shrink wrap the whole mess.
Amazing.
So yeah, you want to move and you don't. I've
got to remember that. I maybe I'm a nomad myself. I've crossed the country a few times, but I never did it on Amtrak. Good to know.
Amtrak's the shit. I'll tell you what, too. If you can't get drunk and late on Amtrak, brush your teeth. Go to a dentist. Seriously, got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do the Amtrak between my dad and my mom between Boston and Chicago as a teenager, the overnight, and yes, you meet some characters, but they're definitely they're more humane than Greyhound overnight. Greyhound overnight.
No way.
A whole other thing.
Yeah.
So you're back on stage again with Drunks with Guns. How's that feeling? And when did that reinvigorate itself?
Well, we got that song in that Ben Stiller movie about, I guess that was 7 or 8 years ago. That stupid fucking, what was it called? Greenberg.
Never saw it.
Yeah, don't. It's terrible. Not only that, but they were like, they didn't send us an advance copy. Well, first I get this friggin' phone call from George Draculius, and I'm seeing this on my caller ID. I'm like, oh, this is a fucking prank. Hello, Mr. Doskocil. This is George Draculius. I'm like, suck a bag of dicks. Who is this? Dane? Click. And, he calls me right back. No, don't hang up. I love your band. You guys are awesome. I've been doing the music for Ben Stiller's movie since the race car with the cops movie. What's that called? Starsky and Hutch. And we want to use one of your songs in a film we got coming up that Noah Baumbach's directing. Now, we don't got a big budget.
That's what they always say.
I'm going to throw a price
yeah.
out, that's all it is. And I'm thinking, oh, fucking $100. He goes, $6,000.
Nice.
Like, I will step over my mother for $6,000. We don't got much money. I could shoot three films for $6,000. But anyway, and that kind of got me wondering, I should probably do this before I die, because the thing is, if you're going to play the drums, you're limited by the talent that you can find that want to do something that you're even remotely interested in. And I just kept running into the same goofballs that had bad songs. I'm sorry. If you're gonna do bad,
if you're do your own bad. Yeah, if you're gonna do bad, do your own bad.
Yeah, make that bad stink, baby. But I just thought I just kept on thinking, fuck, I can write better songs than that. I've got funnier ways of putting the human condition than oh baby. No. So one thing led to another, and then I finally hooked up with Zeps, the guitarist, and that's you need somebody around that's going to tell you when you're an asshole. You need somebody that's not afraid to slap you in the mouth when you need it.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, you're in trouble if you're not willing to be around critics and a critic that you respect. And you could also. I surround myself with critics, and I'll say, fuck you. I still stand my fucking ground on this one, but I still want to hear it. I don't want to get in a fucking bubble of just delusion.
You know what? I don't want to hear your criticism nor your compliments. I really don't give a shit. I know what I do, and I'm going to continue to do it. I don't care if you love it or fucking hate it. I'm going to continue doing it.
But you can do it on your own. I mean, people will always see Lydia Lunch on the poster and walk in the door. People see on the poster. They're more than likely to call the police. See if I have any outstanding.
Well, you know what? I'm the one more likely to call the police because I got my own way of fucking with them, honey. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I took part in an HIV vaccine study back when I was shooting a lot of dope in the 90s, and it was through the National Institute for this and that. And because the vaccine was made up of 3 of the 12 proteins that comprise the HIV virus, it causes me to test positive on the Western blot, but not the Alesis, which is what they do when they arrest you. So I got a photo ID, which I don't know if you read that stupid fucking Michael Stipe book that came out a few years ago.
Of course not.
I wouldn't even consider it, but go ahead.
Right, exactly. But the guy who wrote it called me and he was like, yeah, I heard you tell people you got AIDS just to see their reaction. And I said, that's not quite the story. The story is I test positive for HIV. And because of that, it got me a caution code in the 10 system with most police departments, which they used to have a caution code. I think it was 1092, which meant the subject was HIV positive. Now, the ACLU sued police departments and they had to get rid of that code. But to this date, when I get fucked with by the police seriously, because, I've got other reasons.
Problem child.
I am considered armed and dangerous because of my previous convictions, which that's a caution code too, which they couldn't get rid of that because that has to do with police security, with their own well-being. Whereas the ACLU said, well, look, how do you know you're going to have sex with this person that you're going to get AIDS? It's wrong to classify people by their illness. But anyway, so to this day, I rarely, they usually don't want to mess with me just because I'm going to cost them too much. So, that's a good thing. But it's not like I tell people, yeah, I got AIDS. No, motherfucker. I took part in an AIDS vaccine study because I belong in a high-risk group. Because, come on, really, when you're wrapped up with dope, and the fact that you got that syringe out of a toilet is not going to dissuade me from getting well. At least it wouldn't back then. But anyway. True.
Well, let's go back to touring now. Coming soon. Coming soon, Drunks with Guns. You're back on the road.
We're back. Yeah, we're doing dates, and we got somebody to book shows for us, and hopefully, I get to, infect everybody with my twisted mindset, because I think this shit is hilarious. I just think there's nothing funnier than, comparing people to the vermin that we are. It's why would you go to a show and not want to laugh? Why would you go to a show and not want to bounce around like a broken pogo stick? That's what I do. Every show I go to, if I'm having fun, you can tell I'm bouncing off the walls. This is my sport. People are like, the linebacker for the quarterbacks or whatever that fucking shit is they do. No, this is my sport. This is what I excel at. This is what I'm great at. You haven't seen me till you've seen me cut the rug.
Holy crap.
Yes.
When are you gonna cut a book deal?
It's funny because I have written that book 50 times in my head, and I've written it 3 times
okay,
on paper.
I'm gonna give you a word of advice because it's real simple. You're a great storyteller. We're recording you now. All you have to do is think of your top 10 stories and record yourself talking to somebody and then transcribe it, because you know how to tell a great story. By the way, Jerry Lang of Poison Idea wrote a 3-volume book. Really good. I do recommend reading it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I could see the same coming from you.
Yeah. And then I always seem to wrap myself because
Look, not everybody's a writer, but most people are great storytellers. And that's the key to writing a book that people want to read. You know how to tell a story. Talk it and transcribe it.
Yeah.
That's how your fellow St. Louis and Miles Davis, or East St. Louis, that's how he made his book. Yeah, he's pressed record. And
a lot of people do it. I mean, if it's a memoir, I mean, you know what the stories are. No use sitting there pulling your hair out when there's been at least a dozen, if not, a million great books already written. And people want to hear the true story. They want to hear the memoir. Press play, record, and transcribe. My words, free advice, Mike. Advice.
Yes.
I'm encouraging you.
Yeah. I just there's no happy 12-step ending. There's no, I am, I didn't shoot dope today, but I can't.
Well, that's a good first line. Tomorrow. That's a great first line.
Yeah, isn't it though?
Start at the end and then work your way backward.
Yeah. I owe it to myself. I definitely am going to get on that. But when are you guys out and about again? When will the mighty Lydia?
Oh, well, we're out and about very shortly. We are on, Tim, I, and Matt Nelson are doing a show in Woodstock June 3rd, Retrovirus June 6th in New York. Then we go to Italy, 4 shows, Spain, a big festival. And then Tim, I, and Matt go back to the West Coast with our psycho, ambient, jazz noir, provocative poetry stuff in July.
But Mike, you're going to be in New York before we do all.
So this week we go on and on. I mean, I'm a juggler. I got a variety of things happen. And then I do a tour with Kevin Shea on drums and vocals.
I'm looking forward to that.
In September. Oh, yeah.
And then Retrovirus, we're in Florida after that.
Florida. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I've got
the most out of it.
I make the most money out of it. I know how to squeeze the oranges, put it that way.
Yeah. I've only been there once and I did not like it.
Well,
you are you're going to be at TBI.
May 27th.
I'll be there. I'll
check it out. 26th in Baltimore and the 26th in Kingston, New York, and the 25th in Baltimore.
And
so Thursday,
TVI is one of our favorite places in New York. It's great. You played there a couple of months ago with Weasel on drums. How was that working with him?
Oh, that's working great. He's really I don't often, I get so wrapped up in the moment that I really, the time that I get to when I play back what we've done, and I finally played back what we did in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, fuck, he's all over the place. He's fitting in just great, and of course.
Will he be on tour? Happy birthday today.
Thank you.
This will go out tomorrow.
This is so it's Weasel Walter's birthday, which you share with your birthday today, and I'm up in Massachusetts celebrating my mother's 80th birthday, which is today. So
Right on.
May 18th. There's a lot of people in my world.
There's a lot of bulls out there. A lot of bulls running around out there in the field. Will Weasel be with you on these coming shows?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
You know,
yeah.
Howard. Yeah. You know, I am not
Good.
about to pull a Phil Collins. That's,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, thank you.
No.
All right. Well, it has been a joy speaking with you. I'm going to be pushing you for that coming book. You need any advice or encouragement? My cattle prod reaches a long way, my friend.
You know, as soon as I get back from Scotland in September, I'm starting, because we're doing a big thing in November. I think we're going out to the West Coast for 3 weeks if Weasel's got it in him.
Absolutely. Well, he needs to have it beaten out of him, that's for sure. So this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Mike, of many things, but especially at the here and now and in the past, Drunks with Guns. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you. Y'all stay safe.
Hey, pleasure, Mike.